of what I'm going to be speaking about right now is that everything that we learn in this world are metaphors. Metaphors is what keeps the world going. What do I mean by metaphors? In order for me to explain what a metaphor is, I have to give you a metaphor. Okay? A metaphor means that you can't understand A unless you understand B. So I'm trying to teach you a certain Gemara, and I'm trying to explain the height of a certain pole that is good for a Eruv, and you have a hard time understanding that. You're like, okay, so how tall is it relative to the wall? How wide? How thick? Then I'm like, you know what? Have you ever seen a 2x4? Yeah, have you ever gone to Home Depot and seen a 2x4? Oh, yes. Okay, take the 2x4, and you know how much an inch is? You know how much a foot is? Hey, look at the tile. The tile is 12 inches. So now imagine two of these tiles. Oh, 2 feet. Very good. 10 tfachim. Now I go and I say take a 2x4 and cut it after 2 tiles, and now you understand the height of this pole, of this lechi. So in order to understand the metaphor, I have to give you a metaphor. In order for you to understand anything, you have to understand what is that thing. What are you trying to bring out? So that's why we see everything in images. Everything around us, buildings, animals, toys, cameras, svarim, books, everything in physical form is interpreted as an image by us. These images act as mishalim, as metaphors for us to be able to understand more and more stuff. Once we understand an entire concept of a certain business, that becomes one of our tools, that becomes one of our images in our mind. And if we understand the entire wisdom underneath a certain business, let's say we went into the stock market, we understand everything about IPOs, we understand everything about short selling and everything about Wall Street, and we read the paper and we know the players, and we have the money and we're ahead of the game, and we keep the SEC out of all this, of course, and we do everything by the book, and the entire lifestyle becomes that. When the person decides to move on, all that knowledge remains in the mind. And now when he's approached by anything else in the world, he's approached by a different business idea of selling toys, what's going to happen is he's going to say, okay, I have experience in the business sector. I understand money. I understand how to grow and scale a business because I've been at Wall Street for 10 years. So I have all that knowledge, and I will apply this to that. Okay? And that's how we learn the Torah. Rabbi Shmuel, there are 13 ways that you could learn the Torah, and Kal V'chomer, Gzeira Shava, Binyan Av. You start building Binyan Av is when you take the concept from here and you put it over here because they're similar in many ways. They have certain similarities, and because of that, I could apply the lessons from here over here, and that's how nature works. Nature doesn't work against itself. You have to understand how nature works, and then you know what tools to apply to make it work. If you don't know that certain chemicals together make an explosion, then there's no way for you to protect yourself. But if you learn nature, then when you confront any of these chemicals, you'll know exactly how to use them. So that's how the world works. You have to know certain knowledge in order to be able to use it elsewhere throughout your life. That's called experience. Experience is from physical things that we have experienced, that have gone into our minds and became our tools in order to understand more. And now to give you one more thing, those tools that I'm talking about on a higher level, if you want to call it in Hasidus, if you want to go to that depth, that's called Bina. Okay, there's Chochmah, Bina, and Das. Or if you want to go the other way, Deya, Bina, and Haskel. Bina are the tools that you have in your compartment, that whenever you want, you just open up that toolbox and take out whatever tool you feel necessary for this. So if somebody gives you instructions how to build a certain closet, so you look at the instructions, and then at some point it tells you you'll need to use a screwdriver. How to use a screwdriver is already in your toolbox. You already know how to use it because you have experience from the past. So all you got to do is pick up the screwdriver and just continue doing what you already know in order to finish the thing that you don't know. You still haven't finished this closet. You still don't know what the next step is going to bring. But this step, I know how to take care of. You know why? Because I have the tool of using a screwdriver. And I know how to use that. And that's considered Bina. Bina is taking what we know, using it, Das, Bina, in order to understand Chochmah, in order to be able to finish a complete thought, to finish a complete closet or building that furniture, whatever you need to do. Very good. Now that we understand this, we say in davening, Reshit Chochmah Yirat Hashem. This is how we start. Nusach Sfard, Moida Ani, we spoke about last week, and now we'll go into Reshit Chochmah Yirat Hashem. The first thing that a person needs to do before going into Chochmah, the first thing a person should know in his mind, Chochmah, the first wisdom, is Yirat Hashem, is how to fear Hashem. Okay? You're going to start asking, no, why should I go with Yirat Hashem? How about Reshit Chochmah should be Reshit Chochmah should be business school, or Reshit Chochmah should be how to eat. Reshit Chochmah should be how to walk. But the pasuk tells us no. Reshit Chochmah, the first thing that a person should know, the first thing that a person should put into his toolbox should be Yirat Hashem. So that then anything he encounters in his life, anything that comes up, anything that he has to take care of, the tool that he should be using instantly should be Yirat Hashem. He should show up there and say, oh, I have to do this and this. Okay, what do I have in my toolbox? How could I make this happen? Yirat Hashem. The first thing is, no, Hashem sends me my food. Hashem is the one who sent me here in this world for a certain purpose. I have an obligation to fulfill His will. And once you have these inside of you, you could go about saying, okay, now that I know this, I see the task in front of me. I have to build a piece of furniture. My first tool was used. Okay, this furniture is going to be used for something proper. It's going to be used in order to further me or bring me closer in my work to knowing Hashem, and my Yirat Hashem should be able to be fulfilled. My purpose and my obligation in this world should be able to be fulfilled. And then we say, okay, now that I understand that, I'm going to take out my screwdriver and I'll start doing the rest. So once you have that Reshit Chochmah in any subject, once you understand that anything you go into, any action you're about to do, any word you're about to say, or any person you're about to meet, or any place you're about to be in, the first thought is Reshit Chochmah Yirat Hashem. I am here because I want to connect to Hashem. I want to fulfill my obligation to Him. I want to live my purpose, fulfill my destiny, and work with my talents to reach that level. Now we understand that Reshit Chochmah Yirat Hashem. Now, a person could go from Deya, Bina, and Haskel, and then we could go Chochmah, Bina, Das. Deya, Bina, Haskel means Deya is the actual physical thing that a person sees. If I see this phone, this is Deya. I know that this exists. I know that this is real. So I don't need to know exactly how they built it. I don't need to know exactly how it works. All I know is that it's here in front of me, and it seems like it's working. The second thing is Bina, saying, how did they make this? How can I use this? How does this app work? How does this button work? And that's when we start taking Bina, and we start taking our questions in, saying, okay, let me try to break open this phone and just get to know the inside Chochmah of it. And based on how a person sees the world, if a person has Bina, a person will be able to understand the phone in one particular way. If I have experience in the world based on Wall Street, and then I open up this phone and I say I want to understand how this works, my Bina, the tool that I'll be using, is how to scale a business, how to make money, how to be efficient, how to live a good life, or all these things are going to come into explaining the phone. But what if a person has Bina, has many tools in his arsenal? He has Wall Street, he has different business, he has family, he has Torah, and of course he has Yiras Hashem in the beginning. Okay? And not just that, he has engineering, he knows how to build phones. When he takes apart all of this knowledge that he has and he looks at the phone, he could tell you exactly, just by looking at it, how many megapixels the camera has and why 3 cameras are required just to take one picture. And because he has experience in that field, so he could apply his knowledge, he could apply the Bina that he has onto this Deya, because this is Das, onto this Deya, he explains with his Bina all the Chochmah behind it. And the more Bina a person has, the more Chochmah he could uncover. So, the difference between Deya Bina Haskel and Chochmah Bina Das are like this. Deya Bina Haskel is taking something physical, trying to understand it until we could write the book on it. someone has depression. Then you take a professional who understands what depression is and now writes the book. How did this depression start? What happened in between? What were the reactions? And how did we end it? How were we able to get out of it by reversing this entire thing? And then Chochmah Bina Das is going to IKEA, picking up a closet to build, and it has instructions. The instructions are the Chochmah. The Bina are the tools that we use with the Chochmah, and then we go and we make something into Das. And us in life, we go from Deya Bina Haskel, we have an idea in our mind, and then we try to make that idea something, we try to make it into something, and then we end up with the instructions. And then we take the instructions, and we start following those rules through Bina into this world, and we end up making it a reality. So, as I say in many videos, we need discipline in our life, and we need to live with a principle connected to Hashem, which is Shavisi Hashem Lenegdi Samid. I have Hashem facing me, Tamid, all the time. Tamid is always. And that's the part that we keep on forgetting. Tamid, every single minute, whenever you find yourself in any situation, it should be Tamid. You should always see Him. And that's Reshit Chochmah Yirat Hashem. You need to have that before everything. You have to understand that I'm going up through Deya Bina Haskel in order to understand Hashem and see how I could serve Him and live my best life in order to fulfill my obligations. And then I'll come and do Chochmah Bina Das and do everything properly. I'm not just going to say, if I want to make money, I'm going to use Bina to go and steal so that money could be a reality. Rather, I'll do Chochmah Bina, and with Yiras Hashem, I'll know that I could earn my livelihood in the proper way by doing the proper things. And we are on this cycle. Deya Bina Haskel, Chochmah Bina Das. And our goal in life is that we should be able to understand Hashem. We should be able to see Him and know Him. Okay, we should know Him. V'yadat es Hashem. V'erestichli la'olam, v'erestichli b'tzedek v'mishvat v'chesed v'rachmam, v'erestichli be'emunah. We will be connected to you with emunah. V'yadat es Hashem, and we will know Hashem. Kimala ha'aretz deya es Hashem. The world will be filled with the das of Hashem. Hashem will be as a physical reality in front of us. Not that we will see Him physically, but we will see His presence. We will feel His presence being around us, seeing divine intervention in everything in life. We could see a president almost being assassinated by turning his head just a drop, and it only nicked his ear. And everybody, you have to agree, this is clearly divine. He should have been dead by now. And aren't we lucky to have been able to witness Hashem's hand in this world, in front of the world to see, not just for a few people, the entire world saw it. This is the most iconic moment of the century. Actually, the century is just beginning, so let's see what else happens. And looking forward to some other great stuff and great revelations of Hashem in this world. So we look forward to knowing Hashem intimately, knowing Him with Yediyah. Like Vayeda Adam es Chava Ishtoi, like with Yediyah, we want to get to know Him. And once we get to know Him as a Das, we get to know Him as a reality in our life, that's when we take that Das and we attach it to Bina and we climb up into Chochmah to understand Hashem even more. We take the understanding, the emunah that we have in Hashem, which is reality to us, and now we go and we want to reverse engineer it and say, okay, let me understand Hashem. And that's how we take our Bina, which is Reshit Chochmah Yirat Hashem. We take our tools and we say, we're going to go in here, we're going to get to know Hashem, we're going to get to love Him, we're going to get to be in awe of Him, to be in His presence all the time of our life, the entire time. So now, as we started with metaphors, we can't understand Hashem in any way because there is no metaphor. Ve'ein sheni laham shiloi. There is no other one to compare to Him. There is no comparison to Hashem. There is no image or there is no thought that a person could have that would be able to give him even a glimpse of an understanding of Hashem. We say certain things, but oir panecha, right? The light of your face, or einei Hashem, or yad Hashem. Those are all metaphors so that we could understand what it is. Yad, our hands do action. They are our servants, and we understand Yad Hashem. Hashem has the way we use a hand. That's how Hashem does things in the world with His hands. But does He have hands? Can we even understand what that means? Not at all. So in order to understand anything in the world, we have to use metaphors. And as wide as a person's intellect is, as much metaphors, as much images, as much understandings he has in his life, the more he will be able to understand of Hashem. But there is no level of understanding. There is nowhere we could go and go and go and never even touch the tip. And that's the greatness of Hashem, which we say in Adon Olam. Adon Olam Hashem Alach B'terem Kol Yitzinera. Before anything was created, you were everything, and there's nobody like you, and you are the only one, past, present, and future. And in every subject, in every situation, everything that you see, you could find Hashem in there. And if you take a tzaddik, you'll ask him, "Can you tell me something nice?" He doesn't have to think about it. All he has to do is just look around, and the first thing that he sees, he would say, "Oh wow, I see a chair. Let me tell you how to find Hashem in this chair. Let me explain to you how, through Reshit Chochmah Yirat Hashem, I could find Hashem in this room right now, how His presence is surrounding us at every moment." And it's real work to get to. I understand that it's a concept for many, but this should be the conversation between Yidden. We come into shul and we have conversations. What should we be talking about? Should we be talking about the pizza that we ate? Should we talk about the metaphors, or should we talk about the realities? Our metaphors that we live are meant for us, from Hashem, for us to learn and use them as lessons. And every story that we go through, as real as that story is, somebody went through an accident. The accident is true. He's in the hospital. It's real. But give it a couple of time. Give it some time. Give it a couple of minutes. It will show up. It'll be a week, a month later, and you'll look back at that story. And that story, all that is an image. It's a metaphor. It's a story that happened to you to give you a certain lesson. Okay? So when you're going to go and talk to your friends, what are we talking about? Are we going to talk about the story, or are we going to talk about the lessons of these stories? And that's what we want to get to. The lessons are what matter. The point is not to know. The point is not to know which pizza store is the best. The point is to know that without question, I know which pizza store to go to. I don't have to start calculating in my mind, this one or that one or that one or that one. I've gone to all four of them, and I know for a fact that number 4 is the best. That's all we got to do. We have to learn the lessons of our experiences in order for us to live by default on a good path, knowing what's right for us and working towards our best interest. And when we get to know Hashem that way, we're not here to get to know Hashem so we could see Him, so He could be our metaphor. We don't need that, and it won't be able to happen. What we need is to learn the lessons of how to get closer to Him, because being close to someone does not require you to see them. You could be next to someone with the lights off and have the greatest connection. And that's what we are all aiming for. That's why we close our eyes in the morning, we say Shema Yisrael, and at night we say Shema Yisrael. We say it could be dark. It could be the most lonely place where it's just me and you. And all I could say is Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. I am not alone, because I am one with you, and everything is one with you, so we are never alone. We are with you 100%. So here's where I go. I was thinking if this is a tefillah episode, or is this going to be a higher talk? But either way, I hope you enjoyed. You could listen to this again. There's a lot of knowledge pushed into one thing, and I really hope many more people could learn to communicate and converse in such type of conversations, so that the world could go around from a higher perspective. As I said earlier, I'm remembering now that when a person has perspective about certain people, let's say I understand myself very well, and I understand my sons, I understand my wife, and some of my friends. So I get to know different ways of life, different ways of seeing life. I'm like, that person would think this, that person would say this joke now, and that person would feel this way. And now when I see something new in life, I get to look at it not just from my point of view, my perspective of life. I get to look at it and say, okay, how would my friend so-and-so think about this? And how would my father think about this? And how would my nephew think about this? And you have all these ways of looking at it that ultimately give you much more clarity, many more lessons to live with, and a clearer understanding before going in to this reality and saying, yes, this is for me, this is what I want to do. So of course, life is full of surprises. We get led into the most interesting situations, and we need to learn how to have Reshit Chochmah, which is Yiras Hashem, so that we could confront every one of these situations and learn the best way to connect to Hashem through them. All right. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Check out my other videos and check out my books on Amazon.com, David Lemmer. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you.